Hi, everybody. Let's define functions piecewise and desmos. The syntax, which is the structure of how you type in the equation, looks like this. You'll type the name of your function and then an equal sign. Then you'll have the curly brackets. And then you can have as many functions as you want separated by commas. But you start with the domain that you want to display the function in. So maybe x smaller than 0, or maybe x between 0 and 2. And then you have a colon. And then you have the actual expression that you want to display. So you can see an example here, which we'll type into desmos. You can see it's a little bit hard to read. So you've got x less than 0, and after the colon, we see x squared. So that means we're going to display x squared, but only for values of x that are smaller than 0. Here, the function after the colon is just x. So we're going to display y equals x, but only for x values between 0 and 2. Okay, let's type it in, see what it looks like. All right, so here I'll type g of x. You don't have to call it g, you could call it anything. And then there's my curly brackets. I'll type x less than 0, and then a colon, and then x squared. I hit the right-hand arrow here to let me make a comma. Then I'll type 0 less than x less than 2, and then a colon, and then x is my function, and then a comma. And then x larger than equal to 2. And the way I got greater than or equal to is I just did the greater than symbol, and then I hit the equal symbol. And then after the colon, I'll type sine x. So there you see it. We've got a piecewise defined function. I do not necessarily recommend having all of your function expressions right here in a single line. These are fairly short, but if you're going to be working with larger, more complex functions, it's going to be really hard to manipulate them in this line. So here's what I recommend you do instead. Instead, here, let's close it. Instead, let's define some functions. So my first function was x squared. My second function, which I'll call b of x, is just x. And my c of x function was sine x. So you can see I've got all three functions here. I'm going to type that same g of x function, except now, instead of using the expressions, I'm going to use the names of the functions that I've made. So here for x less than 0, I'll use a of x, and then I'll do a comma. And for 0 less than x less than 2, after the colon, I'll do b of x. And then for x greater than or equal to 2, after the colon, I'll do c of x. So this looks crazy, but the only reason it looks crazy is because I'm still displaying my original functions. If I uncheck each of these, you'll see it's the same piecewise defined function, only now I don't ever have to mess with this line again. If I wanted to shift sine up, I could do it. And if I wanted to replace this with something else, like 10 minus x squared. So now I've got something coming down from the top here. And then if I wanted to shift this up a little bit. So you can make your expressions here as complicated as you want, and you can think about them all separately. And if you want to hide everything and just look at one of yours, or see what role it plays inside the larger function, you can do all that. So I think this is a more flexible way of managing your separate equations. Okay, I hope that this has helped.